All right, welcome back to the One Strong to Experience show. Our next guest, she's a person that I met over 5 years ago. She was in one capacity, and now she's doing something another capacity, but doing different service. That's beneficial to the community. We'll go into that more as we have this conversation. She is also a leader, a problem solver, a game changer. So I'm not gonna tell her what she does. I'm gonna do that for y'all. So her name is Miss Jenni Graham. I want to introduce Miss Jenni Graham. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to you again.
To you too.
Yes.
Yeah.
How was your Thanksgiving?
Well, honestly, dinner itself was good, but my aunt passed away actually that morning. My godmother's sister.
Wow. Sorry.
Yeah. So that was not great, obviously. But we did have a wonderful dinner still, and like where families coming together and doing what we need to do so we can celebrate my aunt and her life on Monday actually.
Monday.
So,
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Again, so I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Some closest to that. That's
Thank you.
Yeah, but I still thank you for coming. Crazy to say, hey, listen, I need some time, but still thank you for coming. So let's get right to it. We'll get right to it. And I know you for years for one capacity here today, and then we'll talk about how this shift happened and things like that. So can you tell us who was Jenni growing up?
Oh wow, who was Jenni growing up? I was a very curious, very creative, hands-on, into things, asking a lot of questions child. Always thinking of new things, trying to like build stuff. And then as a teenager, I was definitely a rebel. I had a rebel spirit. I'm grateful for the adults in my life who recognized the leadership skills that I had, even though I was so rebellious. I had a lot to say about a lot of things. But I was also somebody who was like cool with like all different types of people. And I feel like that's something that has always been consistent with me. Like I love being around diverse groups of people and learning about different people and cultures and stuff. And so that's been consistent for me since I was young. I don't know. I'm a suburban girl, but I grew up my basically entire adult life in the city. So as a child, I would say I was a pretty creative, free spirit. And the interesting thing, part of what's led to where I am now, is I've always loved animals.
Right. Okay.
Always loved animals, which is interesting because my mom she's better now with dogs in particular, but my mom is afraid of animals. Did not like animals, and I'm like, I want to work with all the animals. I love all of them. Look at this frog I found. I found a stray cat. I found this dog, Mom. And she's like, please stop bringing animals in the house. So, I've really come full circle because animals and art and creativity have always been so important to me.
Yes.
And a very natural part of like my personality since I was little.
Yes, and I always had a soft spot for animals, especially for cats.
Okay.
I had a cat growing up, and then he passed away. He passed away when I was younger, and then we get a cat about 10 years ago. Kind of been like safe space, someone in the house. My mom loves the cat, and I had a soft spot for cats. I know last night I was walking to the church, North Philly, and this cat was lipping, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I had soft spot for cats, especially ones that be outside at night. I'm like, I want to bring them in, but it's like I don't know what they may have. But from where I know you, before you was in another capacity, in mental health. So what made you get into mental health at that time?
So also as a teenager, and like I said, I was like cool with like a lot of different types of people. So I was kind of a person that people would come to because they knew I would give objective advice, and I was good at being able to distinguish like this is my opinion versus this is probably what you should do. And so I was able to like distinguish the two. And I also felt like as a child, I was always curious about emotions and relationships. Because emotions are not something that most households talk about, So growing up, I felt things very deeply, and it wasn't like there were a whole lot of spaces to really explore like what I was feeling. So I always felt curious about that and understanding how emotions played out within relationships, especially with like the adults that were in my life. And so that was kind of where I think the seed was first planted for me. And then as I got into like school and into college, I started recognizing like I had an opportunity that I wanted to work with specifically young people who were kind of like myself as a teenager.
Right.
So when I first started out in mental health, I was working with young people because I wanted to work with other young people who might get overlooked, that their leadership skills would get overlooked because they would be looked at as just being rebellious or like, you know, bad and troublemakers and stuff like that. And so that was like really where I wanted to start, was to really kind of give back, looking at the fact that I had so many adults that, I had a lot of adults that did just look at me as a troublemaker, but I had a lot of adults who poured into me, and so I wanted to be that kind of adult when I first got into mental health. So that was the beginning of it for me.
Yes, and so you was, when my time I met you, you was like one of the first people that I met that was doing mental health full time, and that was addressing it to the youth.
Yeah.
In a way that it was different, and I was kind of like, okay, mental health, but it was like not really into it. But now, years later, I am more into it because I feel like it's so important for young people to know, recognize mental health, recognize that you're okay, not be okay.
Yeah, true.
It's not okay to be suffering inside. It's not okay to go do life alone when you can't ask for help.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
at that time, when your mental health journey, you actually was the CEO created Trauma Free University. So can you tell us what was that about? What was that? And what that entailed at the time?
Yeah, so Trauma Free University was my private practice. It actually evolved from being called the Truehart. So when I first moved back to Philly, so I was in Brooklyn for a while. I did grad school at Pratt up in Brooklyn, and that's where I got my master's in art therapy. And so I came back to Philly because I was like, it felt like it was my spirit told me it was time to come home. So I came home and I wanted to bring all that I had learned, and so I ended up starting a private practice. Part of that journey, I also did like a conference where I talked to, the conference was called The Crossroads of Trauma and Oppressive Systems, because I felt like a lot of times we would talk about these two different things as if they were separate, or when we did talk about how they were connected, we really didn't like break down an understanding of like what to do with that and how do we like focus on solutions. So I did like conferences, I did a lot of workshops. So since I was in Philly, I was doing a lot of workshops all over the city. I started my private practice, and what was interesting when I got to Philly, I feel like a different client base, well, I didn't call people clients, I called them participants, but I feel like a different participant base chose me. So I went into the field working with young people specifically, and I felt like once I was in Philly, the people who were most gravitating to me were like activists, artists, creatives, educators, service-based professionals in general, which was interesting because they all mirrored aspects of like who I was, who I am and was. And so I kind of shifted who I was working with. And so in private practice, I predominantly worked with, people who were in those different capacities. And as an art therapist, we use art as a form of communication. We use it as a way to talk about things that might be difficult or uncomfortable. The cool thing about the art is like it created like a safe distance from something that you still felt connected to. And literally through like manipulating art materials or like processing or staying in the metaphor even of the art, people can have a healing experience that they can then internalize, or even like creating something different from what they're experiencing to internalize something. So so incorporating art therapy techniques, and I have an office downtown and everything, and it was a good time in my life.
Yes, you say it was a good time in your life. In the midst of that, you was your purpose. You was doing and loving it.
Yeah.
Then something happened to you. A shift happened.
Yeah.
And you transitioned to another phase of your purpose. Why the shift occurred, and why you stopped doing that, and now you're doing people's purpose now? What can you tell us what happened that caused you to shift? Say, look, I'm doing this well. Why you took me to another direction?
Yeah. Well, the pandemic happened. I feel like so many stories have changed. We're like, well, during the pandemic. The pandemic happened. And at that time, I was like, I guess a lot of other entrepreneurs, like I invested in coaching so I could like transfer everything to the online space, and was going in and creating new programs and things like that. And I was kind of just in this serious go mode. And on one level, it felt good. But on another level, I started, like during the pandemic, I also started doing a lot more deeper internal work, because I had more time and space, like a lot of folks did.
Right.
And I did a lot more spiritual work during that time. I wanted to really expand my spiritual practices, expand my own spiritual connection, and I was doing a lot of inner child work. And so
before you go on, please expound on that and then Charlotte expound on that.
About the inner child work?
Yes.
Yeah, so it was really about creating space. So all of us have like an inner child spirit within us, and like everyone's inner child is basically like probably the closest reflection of like God within us. At least that's how I like to think about it. And it's that pure, innocent, curious, playful part of ourselves that oftentimes the world beats out of us, robs us of that part of ourselves. That part of ourselves oftentimes is hurt or taken advantage of. I know those are some of the experiences I've had. I know a lot of us have gone through experiences like that. And so the inner child work for me was really about giving a voice to that part of myself so that I, as adult me, could let that part of myself know that she was safe, she is seen, she is validated, the things that she wants to do are still important, and that mostly though, that like you are safe to feel all that you feel, and I, as the adult, am taking care of you. And so really like that internal relationship with another aspect of myself, the most pure aspect of myself, you know, if we were to like humanize and think about it. So I was doing a lot of like inner child work and really giving voice to that little girl inside of me and asking her like, what do you need? How do you feel? What do you desire? What do you want? What do you want to do? You know? And also like, how can I help you to feel safe to do those things? How can I help you feel safe to express those emotions? Because again, you know, growing up, most of us don't have a lot of space to express a lot of emotions. We might have some space. I had wonderful, supportive like people in my life, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have this whole wealth of knowledge about like, you know, emotional vocabulary and how to hold space for other people's emotions, especially when they're really big. So that was like some of the inner child work. And I think with the spiritual expansion work, it was a continuing journey for me, but ultimately it was about how I am connecting to that God part of me that's within me, and how I'm connecting to like that greater presence of God that's around all of us and in all of us, and how do I allow myself to like expand into that space beyond so honestly some of the trauma of like being a human. And so I was like doing a lot of meditation. I was like reading and like researching a lot of different things, doing a lot of just like healing work in those spiritual realms of like just really connecting to the essence of my spirit, and again being more connected to like my intuition, learning how to trust my intuition, relearning how to trust my intuition, learning how to distinguish what is my intuition versus what is fear, what is reactionary fear, or a voice that's coming from a place of a trauma point in my life, because sometimes those voices can feel similar. So really taking time to sift through the difference between those. And so like all of that work together was happening. And then I also met who is now my fiance during this time. And he has been on his own spiritual journey, like, which was wonderful to meet a man who was like already on his own spiritual journey, already on his own like wellness journey, like knew about these different things. It wasn't like I was introducing those to him like I'd experienced in like previous relationships. And so it was so nice and refreshing to have somebody that I could talk to about like these different like aspects of myself. And I'll never forget that at one point he asked me a question, or made a statement that he was like, he loved the work that I was doing. So I actually met him like through the work that I was doing. He was actually part of one of my workshops. A mutual friend told him about my work and was like, you would love the work that she does. It's the type of things that you're into and stuff like that. And so he was part of one of my workshops on Facebook, like in my Facebook group. And so we ended up, long story short, we ended up talking. We ended up connecting like just on the phone, like off of Facebook. But in that process, he was like, you do really amazing work. You know, I really respect the work that you do, and like you're really good at it. He's like, but I don't know if you realize how much you talk about just work. And he was like, you know, I actually want to get to know you. I want to get to know more than just the work that you do. And it was one of those moments of like, wow, what are the other things that I do? Because at that point in my life, not only was I in the private practice, I was an adjunct professor for a while at like Drexel, Jefferson, and Temple. I had been doing a lot of activist and advocacy work, and everything about my life was basically consumed by those things. Even if it was like pleasurable things, like the movies that I watched, the podcasts I listened to, the books that I read, all of the connections that I had in my life were all connected to that. And it gave me an opportunity, again, in tandem with doing all this inner child work, to be like, what are the other things that I love? What are the other things that I'm passionate about and things that I do? And even though I was still making art, it was still always in service of processing emotions or creating some social political commentary about something. And it wasn't from that place of my inner child who just liked to make stuff, you know? Just the pure joy of the creative process, and to make something imaginative that wasn't, connected to those areas. And so I had to sit with that and think about like, where are these other parts of myself, and how are they showing up in my life? And so that also together started this new journey for me. As well as when he and I were getting more serious, we were actually, while we were still getting to know each other, and we talked about a lot. We had like a 1990s courtship. We talked on the phone a lot. And we didn't see each other for a while because it was the pandemic. So we had a time to really talk through a lot of different things. I feel like we fast forwarded through like 10 years of like relationship stuff. But we also talked about the lifestyle that we wanted to create. And we both were in a situation where the lifestyle that we wanted to create, we never really had a partner that wanted a similar kind of lifestyle. So it was like one thing to have somebody who's like supportive and understanding of like wanting like the freedom and space to create, to have residual income, like to really be able to have a life where we could be like immersed in going into nature, that we could do cultural events, go listen to music and go to museums and like things like that. And so I started really thinking like, wow, I have this opportunity to connect with this man who wants a lot of the same things that I want out of life, who dreams big in ways that I dream big. And I started thinking like, wow, this is possible. And then even again, in connection with like my spiritual growth, it was like, yeah, really actually anything is possible. It's just a matter of, do I believe it? Do I believe I'm worthy of it? And then of course, am I willing to put in, effort to co-create it in this world? And so, and thinking about the lifestyle I wanted, thinking about what does my inner child want, I had always worked with dogs. So even though I was in mental health, I have always been a dog sitter and a dog walker throughout my entire life. When I was younger, I worked in grooming shops. I worked as a vet tech. I was a grooming assistant. I was a doggy daycare attendant. I was in kennels. I did all types of things with dogs. So dogs have always been consistent. And Eric realized when I say I love dogs, like literally could be in a very serious conversation and be like, oh, did you see the cute stuff over there? Oh, it's a cute pupper. Like literally get distracted by dogs all the time. We'll notice a sticker of a dog. We'll notice even a dog like across the street, like behind a bush. I'll be like, did you see the dog over there? And he's like, no, nobody saw the dog over there. How do you see dogs like that? Because like that's how much I love dogs from a natural place. And I started thinking about what are the things that like I truly love. What are the things that my inner child loves? And it's art, it's creating, and it's dogs. And I was like, I had this idea about this concept for Peoples and Puppers actually back in 2018 was the first time I had had this, because we have some expansion things coming, so y'all have to stay tuned for that. But because this is like the beginning of our business stages right now, but I had this vision for this idea a while ago, but I didn't have like the right support or partnership to do it. And and then as I continued to work on my own healing, I realized that I already knew that part of my gift in doing the work that I did in mental health was born of my own trauma, was born of my ability to emotionally navigate the world around me and to be there for other people's emotions. So I already knew that, but it was getting to a point where it was hurting my inner child. And I was clearly hearing my inner child saying, like, I don't want to do this anymore. This hurts me to keep doing this. And I had to get real with myself that as much as I loved the work that I was doing, because it wasn't that I didn't love the work still, but I would find myself starting sessions and I'd be like, nah, like I do still love this. I'm so grateful I can do this work. But then I would notice there was a time where I could feel myself like shift into like the presentation mode, that I need to present, that I needed to perform. And those are also things that my inner child was like, I don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
I don't want to feel like I have to perform. I don't want to put on the presentation of what's expected of me all the time, because I've done that. I know a lot of us have done that. And it was literally what had once been a gift for me was now creating like emotional harm and pain for me. And in being honest with that, I was like, I can't keep doing this anymore. As much as I loved it, as much as I know people respect me for the work that I'm doing, I was like, I have spent over 20 years working in mental health, because I worked in like inpatient, outpatient, community spaces, and schools and homes. I worked in like children as young as 2 through adults. I had done a lot of work, and I was like, I've been helping so many people to like get free. And I'm like, I want to feel free.
Right.
I am part of the communities I'm serving all the time. And like, I want to experience what I'm always giving to everybody else. And so I made the decision to close my practice. And it was a huge faith leap, but it was like one of those things in my spirit that I knew that I had done what I was supposed to do in that season of my life.
Right.
And there was some fear, there was some like false guilt that I felt like I had to work through. But yeah, in the end, I was like, I want to choose me, and I want to be okay with choosing me. And I want to create this new lifestyle. I started to think about, what do I want my life to feel like? Like, not only what are the things I would like to experience in my life, but like, how do I want to feel on a regular basis? And that all led me to really focusing on peoples and puppers. Yeah. I actually had already been dog sitting, and it was kind of cool that when I met Eric and like when he was coming over, when we were first like, after we had like met in person and stuff like that, he loves dogs just as much, maybe not quite as much. I like love, he always says like, he's like, I really like dogs a lot, but like my fiance, she loves dogs. And like dogs love him too, which has always been a thing for me. Like if I was with a dog and the dog didn't like a person, I'm like, something's not right with your spirit. Because dogs are just natural, unconditional love. Right. That is all their energy frequency is, just natural, unconditional love. And the dogs that I had known and been watching for years, they loved him. He loved the dogs. I had this one dog, she like within minutes was like, oh my God, he's amazing, like throwing herself on him. And like found out that he had worked as a dog walker before. He'd had dogs growing up throughout his whole life, had like trained his dogs and stuff as a child. And so I mentioned it to him, like, I had this idea a while ago. And he was like, I think that's amazing. He was like, and I think that would work. And I think you already love dogs. Like, it would be great to like focus on that. And so I took what was like my side hustle of dog sitting at that time, and I slowly began to transition it into what it is now. We began to expand. So we're like I was mentioning to you earlier, like for Christmas for overnight. So we do overnight. Should I get into that stuff now? Like what we do?
Yeah. Yeah, everybody time up.
Okay. Yeah. So we do overnight dog sitting in our home. So if you're going on vacation or whatever, you would bring your dog to us, and they would come stay with us. We only work with one dog at a time, or multiple dogs if they're from the same family. Right. So your dog gets our undivided attention. Our home basically is like the dog's vacation home. A lot of the dogs kind of come and they're like, "Yay, we're here!" Like, and just kind of come in, hop up on the couch or whatever. So we first started with that. So we expanded like the overnight services. And like I was saying earlier, like for Christmas for overnights, like we were booked like 8 months ago for that. So we are definitely in demand with overnight dog sitting. And we're actually in the process of hiring some other people to be part of the team for like overnight dog sitting as well. We started with that, like really just expanding what was my side hustle part of it. And we're also expanding into dog walking. So we've been marketing our dog walking services now for just a few months. So it's, like I said, it's still pretty like new because we also, Eric and I just moved in together and stuff like that. So like that was a whole transition, and it's been great. And so yeah, we're doing the dog walking services. So right now, our dog walking services are in Lower Marion, Mount Airy, Chestnut Hill, and we're in a little bit of West Philly, like 19104, give or take. So like University City, Clark Park area. So that's where our dog walking services are for now. We do have plans for more expansion beyond that. But yeah, so overnight dog sitting and dog walking, and this is kind of phase one of the business. We have some products that are in the making. We have some plans for, we will have actually a physical location. So we're working on all of those things right now. So it's really exciting because like it's been like August, not this past August, but the August of last year was like when I officially closed my private practice.
Oh wow! So 2022.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So it's been a little over a year since I've really been. I did have a few people that I was still working with though, kind of to carry them through. I got a young person actually who I was working with, and I wanted to stick with her through the school year. But yeah, so it's been about a little over a year where I've just been focusing on the dogs, and in that time too, I'm getting back into like my art making, and I had to step away from, actually, this was a recent clear revelation. I needed to step away from like sculpture and drawing and painting and things like that because they're so deeply connected to just emotional processing.
Right.
And one thing I loved, anybody who knew me growing up, I used to like design my own clothes a lot. So I'm getting back into that. I do a lot of like upcycling, like going to thrift stores. Actually, this jacket here was a 3/4. This was actually my grandmom's blazer. It was a 3/4 sleeve blazer, collarless. And I added the zipper and the velvet here, and extended the sleeves, throw a hood on it. So
nice.
So I'm getting back into like selling, like my boots that I have on. I designed my boots.
Wow.
So I'm getting back into. You can see I get all excited when I just
Yes.
So I'm getting back into like designing clothes, and like I don't know where that's gonna take me. I have some ideas. I also have some ideas of how to incorporate that love with even circling back into my experiences that I had like as a therapist, and like how to help people, and to do so through like clothing, but to be able to like help people like on the inside and the outside at the same time. But I'm sitting on those for a little bit and giving myself some space from like too much like mental emotional like work with others. But yeah, so that's like where I am now and how I got here. I think I covered everything.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And I appreciate sharing your testimony, your vulnerability about transitioning. That's a lot for entrepreneurs to do, to shift.
Yeah.
To do one thing that you love now and seeing the signs and seeing the results of it, and turn it back to your inner child and feel like, okay, what made you happy when I was younger? And obviously, animals love that's something that you love, and you connect with someone that loves the same thing. Now you're in a business, and then now it's expanding, it's thriving. It's something that's needed going now. Because a lot of people are going on vacations and they need to get away. They need someone to visit the dogs and the puppies.
They got dogs in the pandemic and they have not traveled, and their dogs are like, I don't really know other people.
Right. So that's so important. So. We're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
So, outside of all that you do right now, what does Jenni do for self-care?
Oh, a lot of the same stuff I've always done. Meditation, prayer, yoga, journaling. Also now I've gotten more into, also thanks to Eric, who's also really into like health and wellness. He's a wellness coach. Gamma Wellness Dojo, you can check him out. I am more into like taking like different supplements and things like that. So getting like all my greens in and my sea moss. So really, really continuing and building upon like the self-care. I talk about self-care a lot when I was working in my private practice. And it's been cool that certain things have a deeper impact now, that I'm not carrying other people's stuff all the time.
Right, exactly.
That was a whole journey too, of like really releasing and letting go fully, and only holding on to like and recognizing just what's mine. But those are my main things. Journaling, yoga, meditation, and prayer.
Right. So 2 more questions. What advice would you give to the younger Jenni Graham?
Probably, you don't have to choose a career that is expected of you. You don't need to only focus your career on what will make you money, because if you're living in your passion and your purpose, no matter what it is, regardless of how other people may define what is considered a valid purpose or passion, when you focus on your purpose and passion, that is something that has been given to you by God, and then it will always create what you need to live comfortably. In terms of financial means, like when you live in your passion and your purpose, it will provide for you because God gave you those gifts. God gave you that passion and purpose. So to not doubt that, and be okay with using your rebellious nature in a way that'll be a little bit more productive. Because that would still be rebelling, but it probably was the stuff I was already rebelling with, but it'll get you in a different direction in maybe a smoother process, I'll say. Who knows? The process is the process. Everyone's got to go through their journey. But yeah, I would tell myself to really trust myself. Mm-hmm. Trust the things that I'm interested in and explore them with passion and be okay with the fact that everybody might not like it and everyone might not understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, last question. Where people can go and find more information about Peoples and Puppers and website and maybe sign up for your services, where people go to for that?
Yeah, so you can actually go to peoplesandpuppers.com. Is it on my shirt? I don't think it's on my shirt. No. But yeah, Peoples and Puppers, so the letter N, Peoples in Puppers. So peoplesandpuppers.com. That has all the information we need on there. It lists everything about our services. If you are interested in our services, if you go on that page, you can actually, at the top, there's a button for new clients. Okay. And you can click on the new client button, and that'll take you into our software portal. So one of the first things you would do if you are interested in our services would be to create an account with us. Okay. And so that'll be your profile and your information. We get information about your dog. So everything about their behaviors, the things that they like and enjoy, what they eat, their walking schedule, anything that they might be afraid of or scared of. Full range of questions and information about your dog so that we have that on file. And then the next step would be you create your account and then we set up a meet and greet. So if you are interested in dog walking services, we come to your house because we'd be coming to your house so your dog can meet us in your space. You can show us where you keep your leash and things like that. We can see what your walking route is. If you're interested in overnight services in our house, the meet and greet would happen at our place. So then that way your dog can come to our place, can meet both of us, sniff around our apartment so that when they actually come for a visit, they're like, oh, I know where I'm going. I've been here before. I know these people. So that's how we do the meet and greets. And then we just kind of go from there. And I will say, if we are not offering walking services in your area, but you are interested, we do have a link that you can fill out, a service area link that you can let us know your zip code. So then when we do start to expand into other areas, we know where people want us to come. So if we're not in your area and you're like, oh, they sound really great, we love to support, but they don't do walking here. Please do fill that out. Just a short form, and we will only reach out to you to give you updates and let you know when we're expanding and stuff like that. But that's helpful for us. So we let us know where you want us to come next. So yeah.
Wow, that's definitely needed now. So that's the dog walking and the dog services. Mm-hmm. As people travel and try to get away, you need service to the dog and puppies. And like I said, we talked offline earlier about expanding and getting opportunities for youth who love dogs and animals too. Give them an opportunity to support a black-owned business, especially hopefully by next summer, opportunities for that, because that would help them get 10 big quick. See, this something they want to do as they get older, veterinarian, something like that, and they'll be similar to yours, But Jenni Graham, it was an honor, a pleasure to reconnect with you over the years. It's been a while. Now you from now capacity now do something different. Like you said, you inspired me to learn about trauma, how to deal with trauma. So now, full circle now, we are doing workshops for youth on trauma. So, like I said, thank you so much. We definitely share your information for those. I don't know how there's a free book for y'all, but anything they do in the day, we can, help be a service to you, for those who have dogs, who love dogs, and like maybe one needs to get a walk, you know. So especially as the weather gets a little colder, but especially with spring and summer coming, you know. So
if you're back in the office longer, a lot of people are in the office more days and longer now. Even if you work from home and you're like, please just get the dog out of the way.
Right,
entertain them briefly for me.
Those Zoom meetings like that.
So the dog's like, right here. We can come get them out for a little bit.
Like I said, support people's and puppers, support a black-owned business led by extraordinary woman here. So we thank you so much. Our next guest has been waiting, so we're going to get her on here every week in a few minutes. But thank you so much for joining us, Jenni, and hope we see you around soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.